Today, we wanted to talk to buyers about how they can be successful in a really competitive market. It's a competition out there, and the other buyers are your competition, so you want to beat them. So my team has gathered together today to give you some of the best tips on how to be successful. And we're going to kick it off by talking about some financing. Yesenia, tell us a little bit about what buyers need to think about with regard to financing.
Yeah, so there's no reason to wait to get your pre-approval done. It's actually a necessary first step in the process and understanding what your purchase power is. Most times buyers want to get out there and see properties right away, and it's not unusual that a buyer will find a property on the first weekend out and really want to write an offer on it. But without the pre-approval, you really can't make any next moves. Outside of just getting pre-approved, you actually want to go through the full underwriting process. So when you do find that right house, you can write a competitive offer if you've gone through the full underwriting process with the lender. The lender generally takes about 5 to 10 days to get you fully underwritten, so there's no reason to wait to get that done. Sometimes buyers are fearful that, the pre-approval lasts about 3 to 4 months, and their concern is that they maybe won't find the right house within that time frame. But it's actually pretty easy to get that refreshed, and it's usually just takes you sending over updated pay stubs to get that refreshed.
Another thing is, if you're going to make a big purchase, talk to your lender first. So when you're going through the underwriting process, your credit is really important to that piece. So making sure you're not flagging anything when that's being run.
Another thing that buyers are grappling with right now is with the stock market going up and down, sometimes the money that they have in the stock market actually changes from the time that they first get started until the time that they're planning to make an offer. And unfortunately, lately it's been going down a bit. So one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is that if you're planning to purchase soon, sell the stock that you're planning to use for a down payment and keep it as cash so you're ready to go and you're not caught with a big surprise.
One final thing that we want to make sure you do as you're going through this process is asking your realtor what their recommendation is for lenders. Not all lenders are created equal in San Francisco, and your realtor probably has some really great recommendations to actually give you a leg up in the process.
One tip we have for you is due diligence as a buyer. There are ways to actually figure out if what you are looking for exists. And on our team, we actually do a backward-looking exercise where we walk you through the steps of looking at the criteria of the homes that you're desiring and making sure that they actually exist. And if they don't exist, we help you adjust those criteria. So I'm going to let Yesenia and Lauren tell you a little bit more about that.
So what we do is called a past sold exercise, as Ruth was mentioning, and we'll get you started once you decide to work with our team. We will put all your parameters into a search and show you all the properties that actually sold over the last 6 months. Typically, those are the best comps. And so we'll have you do a little homework assignment where you're looking through those past sold properties and identifying which ones you would have bought. And what we need to see there is A, is there enough inventory even out there that sold? And then B, was there enough that you actually even liked? And if there's not, then we go back to the drawing board before you even get out and look at open houses. And we shift those criteria and those parameters. Some of those can be neighborhood, could be price, could be TIC. So we're doing that all up front, size of the property. We're doing that before you even get started to save you some time and money.
So this is a really, really important first step in the process, and it's a very telling exercise, and it allows you to see what you can actually expect to achieve within those parameters. So really taking your time with that exercise, being really thorough with, really diving into those properties so that you can understand what it looks like for you moving forward.
So you're telling me as a buyer, you're going to give me a homework assignment? Are you
right.
kidding?
It should be a really fun one.
So I think the thing is that I think a lot of times initially people might think it's going to take them extra time, but we find that this can shave months and even years off of the process for buyers and actually end up saving them a lot of money, because often when one of those buyers that you mentioned comes to us, the market has already escalated quite a lot, sometimes in combination with the market escalating. Interest rates have also escalated. And so waiting a year has in some cases costed a buyer hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if we can help shave off some of that time for you, then doing that little bit of extra legwork is really important. But we do this a lot with buyers, and sometimes buyers do it a little bit and sometimes they do it a lot. So like, what's an example of doing it right?
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot to say, clearly. Yeah. One way, I mean, some buyers, they realize that they have to open up to new neighborhoods. And so what they're doing is actually spending time on weekends going out and figuring out what these other neighborhoods look like and seeing if it's a fit for them, and just being on the ground and making sure that they can really see themselves in that location.
Yeah, that's right. We'll oftentimes get buyers who go through the exercise and say, yeah, 15 properties, they all look great. Then we dive in and, really realize that, oh, maybe that property had 1,000 plus HOA dues, or it's on a busier street where you weren't quite thinking about the bedrooms being on the street side. And so we're really kind of going back into the exercise after you're done with that, and, reconvening on those parameters and really kind of making sure that those things do actually work for you before we take the next step in going out to see properties.
I think one of the most important things that happens too is that we see properties that are sometimes listed $1 million under asking, right? And so as buyers get educated in that process, before they even start looking, they're gonna be like, oh, you guys, this is one of those, isn't it? This is way under listed. And so instead of being shocked that, oh my gosh, how is that property listed for 1.6 and it's sold for $2.5 million? You know that going in. So it's such a more educated and empowering stance to come from whenever you can look backwards at what's happened and then move forward with a lot of confidence and data under your belt. The next tip I'm going to give you is you're going to have to manage your time on weekends. This may mean blocking off your weekends. I know those kid parties were super, super fun. But Sundays are reserved for open houses. So if you want to be successful, properties often launch on Thursdays and the first showing is going to be on Sundays, and it's not unusual for those properties to be sold by Wednesday or Thursday that week. So if you take a weekend off, then often the property is gone before you can see it, or you don't have enough time to do the due diligence. Now, if you're out there on Sunday and you see something that you love, be sure to text us immediately, like in the open house, I love this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna call the agent right away and let them know that we have a really interested buyer, pull disclosures for you, and then if an offer happens to come in during that time, which could be Sunday night, Monday morning, then the agent will call us, let us know that they have an offer, and if we need to scramble for you and pull something together, we 100% will. Anything else about weekends?
Time management. If you're planning to go to Tahoe for the weekend, let's say, just keep us in the loop with your schedule, because we'll be checking the market, looking for things for you to see on open house, and almost giving you a full schedule of what to see and packing your schedule for you. So if you're going out of town, we will take a weekend off of searching for you and just over communicate with your agent on things like this.
Yeah. And in addition to being just super on top of it and seeing these properties on the weekend, you also want to stay on top of the inventory as well. We really see the search part of this process as a really collaborative part of the process. We're obviously on top of it, sending you things. On Friday, you'll get an email from us that says, these are all the things that you should see this week on an open house. But also, if you're seeing things throughout the week, feel free to send those properties to us, because we may be able to even get you in before the open house.
Sometimes when I'm in an open house, buyers come in and they rub me the wrong way when I'm the listing agent. So I know you guys have some tips for how buyers can be likable in open houses, and what are the do's and don'ts in open houses? Can you tell me, Lauren, tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely keep any negative thoughts that you might have about the house to yourself. Be really positive in front of the listing agent. There's also cameras a lot of the time in properties, so just be cognizant of that, because the seller may be watching. So just be really kind and courteous and really positive about the home.
The other thing that you should do when you're at an open house is introduce yourself to the agent. Let them know who you are, who you're working with, and it is okay to ask questions, but you want to be cognizant of how many questions you're asking and what questions you're asking. A couple of questions that you can ask are, when are the offers due? Do they have a full disclosure package ready? And if they do, is there anything notable in the disclosures that you should be aware of?
The other thing about disclosures is that if you're there with the agent, I think a lot of times it's easier for them to walk you through some of the high level disclosure things. Like if there is a crack in the foundation, like how big is it? It's nice for them to walk you down and show it to you. And sometimes I find that when I'm reading things in a disclosure package, they can sound really scary, but when I actually stand there and see them, they're not. So seeing those things live and on site, I think is really important. And one thing to piggyback off the cameras, I wanted to just make note because often when we're touring with clients and homes, they start talking to us about like, well, what do you think I should offer and what would be a good offer? And it is very, very, very common for there to be cameras, especially outside the house. Like even a Ring doorbell can pick up, I feel like it can pick up all the way across the street. So, so never, ever, ever talking about like, well, maybe we should do this like thing on our offer, because the seller is probably sitting there being like, yeah, I think you should. So I think the cameras are definitely a really big thing.
Yeah. So probably just walking down the street with your agent, walking to your car together or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes, considering there's no privacy in the home. So you're out there touring at an open house and you found the perfect 10 out of 10 house, which actually we tell you that an 8 out of 10 is the perfect house because usually you have to compromise. But let's just say you found a 10 out of 10 house, you're ready to move forward. What are the next steps for moving forward with an offer?
Well, the first thing is we want to make sure that you understand the range in which a property is going to sell for. We've gone through the past sold exercise, so in that step of the process, you probably saw that oftentimes listing agents are pricing properties very low and it's seen as just a marketing tool. So we'll want to understand the range in which the property is going to sell for. How we will do that is send you comps. So we'll send you comparable sales that have sold in the last 6 months and give you a range in which we think the property is going to sell for. And if you're okay with that range, then we'll take the next steps in moving forward with your offer. The next steps would be requesting a disclosure package. And Lauren, you want to walk us through how we take our clients through understanding what the property is?
Yeah, so we'll want to make sure we have disclosures right away for you. So the moment you like the property, we're going to pull them, because if, for say, the listing agent got a preemptive offer or an offer that same day, they're going to be calling anybody who's pulled disclosures. And so we want you to be part of that call. So we're going to be doing that up front. If you decide based on comps you want to move forward with the property, we are actually going to do a full disclosure review. So what does that mean? We're going to be looking at about 400 pages worth of disclosures and summarizing those for you, and then walking you through those disclosures and any questions that you have about the property. So there's a lot of time that actually goes into this on the back end, not only to prepare the summary, but then also to have that conversation with you. It's usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So there's several steps involved before you actually make an offer on a property.
Well, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours for the meeting.
Yeah.
Just to help you guys understand, the preparation for that meeting could be 5 or 6 hours. So if you see a property on a Sunday and offers are due on Monday, then definitely we can scramble. We can move mountains for you. But the sooner that we know and the sooner that we can align our schedules with you, the better and the easier it's going to feel for you. Because trust me, it feels very chaotic, even if there is a lot of time. So we want to help you be as prepared as possible, and the more time that we have, the better.
And we also want to have enough time so that, say there's questions that we have in the disclosures, we are getting those questions to the seller or the listing agent, or maybe even scheduling a call with the inspector. So we want to make sure we have enough lead time before the offers are due to get any and all of your questions answered.
And I would say about 90% of the time, we're able to go and see the property with you. So ideally, we want to put our feet in the ground with you. But if you saw an offer on a Sunday and they get a preemptive on a Sunday night, probably we're going to have to scramble and not see that. But in most cases, we are going to want to walk through the property with you. And one of the things that we're doing during that walkthrough with you is we're actually, believe it or not, telling you all of the things that somebody else may not like about the home, or some deficiencies that we see in the home, right? Because we don't want to sell you a house that later you walk into and you're like, wow, I didn't realize, but the lighting is really bad in here. We want to be the one to tell you that in advance. And so you're going in eyes wide open, understanding the deficiencies of the home, and making sure that you're making an offer that's appropriate with those deficiencies. And then that will also help us really narrow in better on the comps. Like we can do comps on the computer, but it's a little easier once we've been in the home.
And once we've submitted the offer, on offer day, it's important to clear your schedule. Oftentimes we need to move very, very fast, and it can be really uncomfortable to make really big decisions very quickly. And so we want to make sure you have a clear schedule, that we can get a hold of you so that when we do, we can move pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think another tip is not painting yourself into a box with regard to the number. We hear this a lot from buyers where they're like, well, we wanted to decide before we went to sleep tonight that we're not going above $3 million. And the reality is that the house is going to sell for the number that the market is going to bear. So if you have a budget that exceeds the number that it sells for, and it's a house that you really want, then holding back on that particular house will probably just mean that the next one you have to pay even more for, believe it or not. I know that's super heartbreaking. But if you can afford it and you find out what you need to do in order to win, typically we recommend being ready to step up and do that. And as Yesenia mentioned, sometimes that can be a matter of minutes that you have to make those decisions. So we're here to hold your hand with you as much as possible and help you through the process. So I wanted to talk about preemptives and teach you a little bit about them. They're all the buzz out there. When is a good time to write a preemptive, Lauren?
A good time might be when you just love the property. It's early in the process. Maybe it just came on the market and it's just a slam dunk home for you. You're willing to do what it takes. Oftentimes in preemptives, you have to go on the high end of the comps or even surpass the high end to get it, because you're basically telling the seller to pull it off the market, give it to you, and not wait till offer day or not pull all the other offers in. So you know that you want to just bang it out of the park and win the home because it's the home you really want.
So it could be hard to actually be ready to do that if it's your first offer, right?
Probably, yeah.
So one of the things we do, right, on our team is the first time we write an offer with somebody, we spend an hour and a half going through everything. It kind of gets some of the wiggles out, right, if you will. Generally, we do get people into contract on the first or second offer. But really going all the way in so fast on that preemptive, it's an even faster process than a regular offer.
Yeah. And I think a lot of buyers, as uncomfortable as it is to compete with multiple offers, you do get a lot of confidence on where you need to go to get the property because of the other offers. In a preemptive situation, oftentimes you are the only one to the table. And so it can feel really uncomfortable surpassing, as Lauren said, you often have to surpass the most recent comps so that the seller can sign it. And so it may feel that you're overpaying for the property, but we have represented many buyers who have explored a preemptive and then decided one reason or another to not move forward with that. We see it also on the listing side of town, Ruth. I mean, we think we just saw it on one of our listings.
Yes, we did just see it on one of our listings. We got a preemptive offer. The seller actually said no, and then we ratified an offer for $200,000 over that offer. And I'll be honest, I thought the preemptive that came in was amazing. And the seller decided, you know what, I'm gonna take my chances. I'm gonna hold off and wait and get another offer. So in most cases, it does sell for more with competition. But to Yesenia's point, I feel like it is very hard to know for sure that you didn't overpay when you don't have the confidence of winning against another buyer, because you feel a little bit like you were bidding against yourself and you feel a little bit like, is this the right thing to do? Whenever it's just yourself. So I think it does take a little bit more of a seasoned buyer. There's another time though that I think that it's really good to write a preemptive, and that's whenever we get a little bit of an idea from the listing agent that it might be that the seller's expectations might be lower than what we're expecting it to be. Yesenia, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, we'll always call every time you're interested in a property. We're going to call the agent and do diligence, find out how many offers they're anticipating. What are the sellers expecting? Maybe we might ask what comps they may have used to get a sense of, where they're at on their end in terms of their thinking on price. And so we never want to reveal exactly where you're thinking, so we always ask the question first. And if that number is given to us that's much lower than where you were, then that's a great time to write a preemptive, because it's actually lower than we're actually writing a number that's much higher than they were actually ever anticipating. So your chances of getting it are pretty high in that case.
And we've had a couple of those situations where our buyer's budget was actually much lower than where we thought it would go, but when we got that information, we were like, win, right? It's a win-win for the seller and buyer, because I think both people end up feeling like they got the deal. But in most cases, the buyer is the one who's getting the deal.
Yeah. Even if the property has posted that they have an offer date on such and such date, if you really love it and have to have it, we can also move forward with a preemptive, and we have been very successful in doing so, even when a property has an offer date set. Sometimes when you do go that route and you write a preemptive, you do end up competing with maybe one other person, but I do think, competing with one other person versus 10 perhaps on offer date, you still have a leg up in that situation.
So I hope you enjoyed our tips on buying in San Francisco. For more tips, click the link below or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you and answer any of your questions. Thanks for watching our videos.